So I'd like to welcome you to your hour. You know, in MCR, we welcome you to your weekend. Now, we are welcoming you to your hour. And I'm glad for those who are able to make it, because it's just a way of we trying to connect with you and also reminding you of what you promised and you planned during your MCR. You may have attended it, 2013, which was the first edition, or even 2021, which is the latest edition. So, but whichever one you attended, there's always need. We realize there's always need to keep up with you, for you to be reminded what you were told to do. Now, the first thing before we go into our talk is for us to reestablish the milestones. I won't take you back to MCR, but just to remind you the milestone, because during your MCR, after all those discussions and chatting and sharing, you were taken through a path. There were those things you decided, you know what, as a couple, we are going to work on this. As a couple, we are going to stop doing this. As a couple, we are going to help each other in this area. So that was the SWOT you ended up with. And I'm sure if I ask now, just like Charles gave you this exercise, how many of us remember what we agreed upon that day? I'm not sure how many of us still know or even remember what we were taught. So that is why these sections are important. And that is why we call you into your hour, so we can remind you. Definitely we cannot touch every bit of what you have gone through in MCR, but at least we zero in on an aspect, which is, we call it staying in love. Because the whole objective of whether it's a weekend or an hour, the whole objective is to stay in love with our spouse continuously, not once in a while, not when it is possible, not when it is convenient, but always in love, always in love. So staying in love requires us to have that continuous knowledge of self. If you remember MCR, we talked about, knowing self, knowing spouse, true love, communication, all that. So if we are to stay in love require us to continuously know ourselves. To be knowing ourselves is a continuum, because we are constantly changing. Like we already know, the only constant thing in life is change. And we are constantly changing. It means I have to continuously know myself, because it will help me to package myself for my spouse, for Charles. And it will help him to appreciate who I am, who I have become. So that continuity of knowing self is important. It will also help us, to know how am I impacting my marriage relationship, whether positively or negatively. And what I need to do, if it is negative, what I need to do to get back on track. So that is what this hour will help us, to reiterate in our minds. How am I impacting my relationship? What am I doing? Now, one thing is clear though, and that is being able to hold the attention of my spouse. Because if we are staying in love, you see, it is a continuum. It's in present tense, staying. If I'm going to stay in love, it means I have to be able to keep the attention of my spouse. How? And each one of us has to endeavor to recognize that as a fact, that is holding the attention of my spouse And the only way we can do that is to create an enabling environment. I know this statement is like rubber stamp these days because anything you are talking about is enabling environment. So why not in marriage? Why not in your love? Creating that enabling environment always in your relationship. And to do this, to create that enabling environment for you to continuously remain in love and you continue to stay in love, means as I am studying myself, as I'm understanding myself, as I'm recognizing those changes, it means I have to increase my magnetic field of love. Increase my magnetic field of love. The same thing with you. You have to increase your magnetic field of love. If you are going to keep the attention of your spouse, like for myself, keep the attention of Charles, it means I have to create that enabling environment. I have to increase that magnetic field of love that wherever he is, I am in touch. He is drawn to me. You know what magnets do? They draw the metal to themselves. And that is what we, through knowing self, should be able to do in our relationship. So, since we recognize that, like usual, MCR is not, a talk. It's something, we talk about acting, performing, whatever it is that we are talking about, practicalizing. So if I'm going to increase my magnetic field of love, it means whatever I am doing has to be spouse-centered. It has to be, my spouse has to be the center of it, has to be the focus. And we can work from the known to the unknown in this regard. So how do you do that? Is to first of all, ask ourselves, what is it I do that shrinks my magnetic field of love? What is it I do that turns my spouse off? You can get a paper and pen, and since it is about you and not about your spouse, it's very easy to come up with it. So what is it that turns him off about me? What is it that I do? So we note them down. Be it one that you can remember now, you can build it up later. And that will be your your start point in creating and increasing this magnetic field of love. So if you have done that, or you are thinking of doing it right now, the next thing is look at the different facets, the different aspects of your relationship. I just give you some few examples. For example, you are talking about conflict management in your relationship. So if I'm going to increase that magnetic field of love, it means my usual way of handling quarrels and responding and reacting to things, I have to review it. So instead of debating to win, as if I'm running a contest with my spouse, I should remind myself and replace that with dialoguing. Dialogue to resolve issues in our conversations. You will see that if we're able to, notice that and tell ourselves, I'm going to do something about it, and this is what I'm going to do, you find that it makes it easier for us, our spouses, to let down their guards. So they don't feel they are going to a war or a contest when we have to discuss. Many will tell you, I can't stand it, so I take a walk. It cannot be so. Like that, you are not creating the enabling environment for your love, to thrive, for you to be able to remain in love and always be in love. Because your spouse, it takes two to tango. Your spouse will not always be there. They will tell you, I can't take it. And whatever they have to do to be away from us, they will do. And it goes both ways. It's not just the man or just the woman. So remember, we are talking about me and not my spouse. So if we're able to replace debate with dialogue, that is a good score for us. We have said we should be spouse-centered rather than self-centered. Always thinking, I must have the last word. I have to, it's my way or no way. No, we replace that with, let's make it a two-way street so that there will be room for listening. There will be somebody to listen to us. Because if it is my way or highway, nobody is listening to anybody. And we complain, oh, Charles doesn't listen to me. Anytime I'm talking, he's busy doing this, and his expression, the expression of his face never shows. Hey, wait a minute, how am I doing it? Am I a run-on sentence or a running tap or a nagging, spouse? So we have to, that is the self-knowing that we say has to be continuous. It has to be continuous if we are going to make that difference. Then again, we have to learn to use those magic words. Please, I am sorry, and thank you. They sound very mundane and commonplace, but they actually help to de-escalate, our issues instead of escalating them. Well, I recognize I have erred in this regard. Of course, we are all human. Nobody is perfect. We make mistakes. But if we are able on a timely basis to say, oh, sweetheart, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have said that. I mean, that is not really you. I was just trying to exhale. We have to find different ways of exhaling. So once we are able to, say, I am sorry, the healing begins. The reconciliation becomes possible. You find that our spouses will be willing to accommodate, will be willing to stick around, will be willing to have a chat with us because they know it will make a headway, because somebody will listen and somebody will respond in a positive manner. So we have to be ready to say, I am sorry, or please, not commanding, as if it's your entitlement or my entitlement, and say, and show gratitude. That thank you goes a long way, because when you are grateful in little ways for little things, you are bound to receive much more, much more. Your spouse will feel appreciated. Okay, in this relationship, nobody appreciates me. Anything I do drops to the bottom of the pit because nobody ever says thank you or recognizes it as. That is part of what we should look at. Am I reacting, responding in that manner? If I am, so it is time. For MCR logics to work for us, we have to work on ourselves. Allow ourselves to be helped by putting into practice those things we have heard, we have been told, and allow them to bear fruit in our marriage relationships. Then, of course, when we talk about emotional connection, like Charles will always say, he says when he's giving one of these talks, he says that sex is the deepest form of communication. At first, I used to wonder, I said, what do you mean? I talk to you, you talk to me, and why do you say this? Because he said that is when you give of yourself completely. And I got to understand why it is so. So, in a marriage, you find many people, because I deal with quite a lot of people. This is an area. Staying in love and remaining in love and enjoying your love presupposes or expects that this deepest form of communication has to be given, that attention. So how? Don't have sex with your spouse, but make love. You will wonder, which one is that again? Don't have sex. It's the same instrument. I'm not inventing anything. Yes. One takes, a spouse as a thing to be used, while the other takes a spouse as a person to be loved, to be beheld, a person to behold, a treasure to be cherished. So the first one, when you have sex, you can do that with a prostitute. It doesn't matter, because I don't know, you don't lose anything or you lose whatever it is, but it doesn't matter. But the other takes the individual into consideration. So like Charles will say again, he said, where you want to make love, you have to start. Everything during the course of the day should lead towards it. He makes references, to the cock and the hen, how the cock dances around the hen. It doesn't just come and
he was
hop
the one that mentioned it and now said something. So
excuse me, there's somebody, please mute yourself. Somebody is entering my head in their talk. So, making love with your spouse is very key. It's one of those ways that we can, reunion and, have our spouse, make them happy. Remember the objective, what love really is. That is to will the good and happiness of the other. The other here now is your spouse. So it's not a question of, okay, yeah, I feel like having sex now. Okay, so that's why I'm married anyway, so why should I? No. You are talking to a friend, with a friend. So you have to ensure. So you start the process, with little gifts, little kisses, romances here and there, acknowledging them, all those ones, they build up to that stage that the individual is ready to give themselves wholly and truly to their spouse, to their friend. And there is that union, that unity, and everybody feels fulfilled. I was in a conversation, having a chat with, somebody, and she told me, can you imagine when my spouse comes and says he wants, he wants to make love to me, and he pounces and jumps, and at the end of the day, can you imagine? He finishes and he tells me, he asks me, oh, I was great, right? I really did it. I hit the nail on the head. I'm like, seriously? So what have you left for your wife to say? So if we are so great, it's your wife that should be giving that compliment. So if it is you that is giving the compliment, it means you have gone in there for selfish motive and you have satisfied yourself. And one of us gave an example of what the man and the woman is when it comes to making love. He said the woman, I think in one of our webinar, he said the woman is like the standard gear, while the man is like the automatic gear. So what does that tell us? I don't know whether many of you there were old enough to know what standard gear was. You go from gear 1 to 2 to 3 and to 4 before you cruise. Whereas the automatic, you turn the key and it's off and going. So the man is like that. But the woman needs to be, romanced, to be taken from, gear 1 to gear 2, 3, and 4 before both of you can go to cloud 9. So if our love has, that objective of satisfying my spouse, for their happiness, for their love. It therefore means the focus should not be on us just having satisfaction. It should also, how do I get my spouse, to enjoy, this union, that we go into when it comes to love making. So let's give that attention. During one of our outings, it was a very, very resounding point where, many of the ladies were complaining about, being left high and dry. So, and many a time we don't feel comfortable talking about it. So a lot of people, find themselves not heard. So, but this is one occasion I dare to mention it, that we should give attention, have prolonged romance, have prolonged embrace, have prolonged kisses. And as I'm saying it, maybe some will say, okay, please tell all these men, they don't understand and all that. But the truth is, for us women too, we can initiate. We can initiate. And hey, I tell some of my friends, I say, look, why is it that you have to wait until he comes to touch you? You can touch him. Oh, you know how to get it. The day you are also turned on by him, or you have your desires to be fulfilled, wear your best dress that when anytime he sees you, his eyes roll. Then you know that, and you are up to something. So your best nightie, when you come, is the time to wear it with your nice perfume, and you cross over him to pick whatever you have. The whole idea is to get his attention. We are talking about staying in love, lovingly. So it has to be mutual effort. It has to be something that both of you, strive to do, because we are in this whole hog for the rest of our lives. Why don't we make it fun for each other? So staying in love requires that we make love and don't have sex. Now, thinking more about that, another thing before I will stop, because I don't want Charles to stop me, is we have to have this healthy compromise. Healthy compromise in our relationship. So it doesn't have to be always my way. What I want, the way I want it, is the best way for you. Yes, it may be, but for your spouse, it may not be. He has his own other ways and his own reasons, or her own reasons why it is so. So I would like us, to take our relationship of compromise, to this secondary level shade of colors. What does that mean? Okay, I like blue. He likes yellow. Oh, when you bring half blue and half yellow together, we make what? We make green. So our relationship should be giving that green life, where everyone's interest is represented. I like white, he likes red. When you bring it together, you are making pink. So like that, your relationship has its own standing where everyone is, protected, is represented and satisfied. So let's take our compromise to that secondary level shade of colors. And you find that even though I like to go out and go and dance and whatever, and Charles likes to stay at home and watch his CNN, can do it 24/7. But hey, we agree, you know what? Let's go out, to my dance, which he always, always did. And, we go out 3 times a week, or depending on the program you have. Your program is not ours. And we stay at home and listen to CNN, which I don't give a damn about. I always say that he's my own CNN. He hears everything, and I pick his brain to be able to follow up when I'm, in discussion with people about, social things and all that. But because we care about each other's interest. So we are able to, okay, so we go out and we can stay at home and cuddle ourselves. And so everyone feels, represented, not oppressed. They feel they matter in the relationship. They feel there is love there for them, enough love to go around. So we have to, our compromise has to have that as at its base. And if we're able to do that, you find that staying in love becomes easier. Staying with each other becomes fun. Being around each other, increasing that magnetic field of love becomes something automatic. You find that we are able to go out and remember, oh, my spouse is at home, I need to go. No, I'm okay with this one. Whatever it is, we have not done now, we can do it later. You are running home, he's running home to you, or you are running home to him, or you are calling him. So all these things, are fruits of being able to keep the attention of our spouse by creating that enabling environment. So before I sign off, it would be nice, I would like each one of us, to review how this last 1 year, well, if it makes you comfortable, the last 6 months, how I have not done this. At least put down 2 points, 2 circumstances or ideas, whatever it is, which we have not lived through that has made our relationship, to lack the attention that it deserves. Let's put it down and tell ourselves, I am going to start with this. I've been so bossy these last few years, or this last 1 month. Or, I have been so contemptuous. So let's have a mind search, because the whole idea is about me looking inward, knowing myself, and knowing how I am contributing to the wellness or the well-being of my marriage relationship, or how I'm contributing to, the bad health of my relationship. So let's note those points down, at least 2, and specify the one you need to start working on as soon as you leave this refresher hour. So with that, I'd like to wish everyone a very, very, good evening. And I hope your next exercise will help you to appreciate your spouse better, to see the good side of your spouse, not always, the bad side of your spouse, because no one is devoid of goodness. We only have to look a little deeper. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Gloria Osezua, for that. Please, can we put our hands together for her, or mute your mic, and then put your hands together for those tips we've received.
Thank you.
There's one that actually just blew me away. I had to put it here in capital letters, which is the magnetic field of love. Wow. We need to patent that term. Okay, so now is the time for comments. Let's hear your comments. Unmute your mic. Let's have your comments, your questions, or just let you hear from you. In no particular order, and you've already turned on your camera, but let me just in no particular order, just unmute your mic and speak, so that we can get this up and running.
One more exercise. Let me mute.
Once you start speaking, I will give you spotlight. Richard, I see you. Bona, I see you. Bona, welcome back. Mazuka, I see you. Tina, of course. So let's get your comments. Let's get your comments. This is the time for comments, and then let us see what's your insight. What do you think about this? So Let's get your comments, your insights. I can see more messages here. Thanks a lot, madam. It's quite interesting. This from Dumebi. Dumebi, so you want to say something? Not from the media world, but right, I mean, in your own world. So just unmute your mic and say something. Yeah, somebody speaking. We're listening.
No, just because, Charles, good afternoon, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, madam. Yeah,
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you, ma'am. Yeah, quite refreshing.
So, and that's Dumebi, right? Who is speaking now?
Yes, Dumebi.
Okay.
Okay, Dumebi.
Yeah,
okay.
Can we see your face?
Can we see your face? Let's see if you are the same way we left you.
Okay.
I know it's Saturday, but
okay,
No,
well, it's okay if you can't now.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, not immediately, but I can
Okay.
as time goes on, right? You know, yeah.
Okay, yeah,
so much,
don't be caught on fresh. Okay.
Yeah, what I find quite refreshing is the fact that you know, oftentimes we need to be reminded of what marriage is all about, because as we go along, we think we understand it, but I realize that sometimes when you do certain things, if you don't look around, you will obviously be leaning towards some selfish goals without realizing that the other person is there.
That's right.
Other times too, you do your best to ensure that everything is balanced, but at the same time, the reaction you get from the other end is that things are not balanced, and you get confused, you know, because you have done your utmost to actually ensure that things are balanced in terms of your considerations, in terms of the things you do and everything. But so my confusion is this balance? Is this something that is imaginary or something that is actually practical and can really be placed somewhere?
Okay. Your question is whether it is balanced.
Yes.
Whether there is any balance.
Yes, because oftentimes, however you try to do it, it looks like as if you are not doing it, that you are still selfish.
Okay, so in marriage, actually, there is nothing like, you know, balance or not balance, but it's responding. It's responding to every situation. The first thing is when you think you are doing your best, that is from your own, you know, perspective, your own consideration. But remember, you are loving somebody. You are loving somebody else, and you need to know how they need to be loved. Because the way you may be loving them may not be how they wish to be loved. It's like a woman cooking egusi soup for the husband, has gone to the market, bought ukoroko, bought all those things, and made this fantastic, you know, egusi soup. Even people on the other side of the street, they are smelling it and having and oh, she feels she has really, I mean, I've put in all I can, and I've done what is required. Then present the husband with egusi soup, not realizing that the husband doesn't really care about egusi soup. He would have preferred to just eat his watery okra soup. But the woman would think, I took pain, I spent money, and I did this and I did that. What do you think has happened there? What is wrong with that kind of love affair? The lover has not put the beloved into consideration in determining what they need to do to actually make them feel loved. So while we are doing our best, it is always, you know, advised that you reach out across to be sure that your spouse, that is what they really need, you know, as their own way of feeling love. That is where the balance comes in. You want to do what is right, what is good. You have to pass it across, reach out to your spouse to be sure that, yes, that is the other side of this. What I just dealt with today is looking at me. So the next time will be looking at you, my spouse. So this one now borders on that. We have to know our spouse. We have to know their emotions. We have to know their word, how they are wired, their interests, because that informs what goes down well with them as a mark of love.
All right,
All
thank you,
right,
ma'am.
thank you very
You're
much,
welcome.
Dumebi. For the avoidance of doubt,
Yeah,
Dumebi is a man. He's a man, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
And my diploma, so you can actually confirm that.
No, I'm just doing it on. I'm just telling for a
Okay.
friend. All right,
okay.
Uchenna, do you have a comment?
Nice hearing from you. That's good.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Joshua Ogweni, our renowned HRO director, you have a comment?
Ah,
Yeah, Joshua, all the way. We try to turn it
wow.
together. Yeah.
Interesting.
Hello.
Hi.
Is that Joshua?
Yes.
Joshua, we must see you. Joshua, we must see you.
You cannot see. I'm not in a place where you can see me. I
Okay.
struggle to just sign on because I'm in the middle of something. A young lady called me today. I was interviewing her how old she was in IWFI. And she said 1 month. I said, wow, thank you for calling. In fact, she actually called my wife. She didn't know that I was the one that has been responding. So she actually convinced me that even if I had no time, I should just sign on and listen, even though I'll do some other things. Yes. And I felt I owe her a duty since I actually agreed. So I'm really on the top of something. But I'm enjoying the conversation. I like the last point that Madam made, that you should understand your husband. If your husband needs a watery okra soup and you want an egusi soup, please give him what he wants, because you may not know that your egusi soup is not what he wants. I think it's a very good one. Thank you, Madam. Thank you, IWFI. I'm proud of IWFI. As a matter of fact, I try to advertise it to some couples to see what they can do. And really, one of such couple attended one sometime, maybe last year or early last year or something. It's a one Mr. Anyafulu and his wife.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, Joshua Ogweni, you brought us up, and we are still. You interviewed me for the job, and I'm still here.
You are doing well. So I wonder. I say, how come that you are so deep in married couples affairs? What experience do you have? God will
well, I just do the admin. I do the admin. Only the admin work. Only the admin. Okay. Uchenna wants to say something. Uchenna Ezugu from Wysan School.
Okay.
Uchenna, please.
Our own personal people.
I think rather from Ikorodu now, Charles.
Okay. Oh. Reporting from Ikorodu.
Reporting from Ikorodu, I know Wysan School, yes. So one can be over grateful to Mommy Gloria and Daddy Charles for what they are doing in our own families and in our own lives. Well, my comment this evening is more like a question, really, because sometimes these tips are necessary. They come in handy when you need them, and they just turn things around for you. But there are sometimes when you remember the tips and you just cannot apply them because your partner has not yet, probably in my own thinking personally, has not yet come to the point where you can say, yes, we can practice this now. And my reference is especially with regards to finance, difficult to do this together, to manage your money together with your spouse, because the way you understand this is a bit different from the way your wife understands it. So my question is, how can one really apply these things in every of your life as a couple?
Well, I would say we take it, one day at a time and one space at a time. For finance, that is very involved. In every marriage, it's always a point of, friction, I would say. But what I will advise, which we have done in previous MCR, is for you to have a discussion. It's not about, not our spouse not being there to understand our own position or how it should be applied. is to meet them where they are and have a discussion. What is my plan? What is our plan? Our financial plan for our family. Let everybody have an input. It's not, a designer, dress you just bring and you wear. You have to fashion it according to the need of the family and the individuals involved, because, putting into consideration your temperament, how you are wired emotionally. There are those who are monks. There are those who are very, flamboyant. There are those who are. So it still goes back to knowing. You have to know who your spouse is and how they respond to things in this regard, especially finance. If they are the deep spenders, if they are those that hog money, they hoard it and even be suffering and they won't use for themselves, talk less of use for another person. So you need to understand this. Then come together for the life of our family, for us to have that green leaves. We talked about compromise just now. You cannot stay yellow all the time or stay blue. So we have to come together and make a green for our family. So what is our financial plan for our family? And let everybody have input. Then you now discuss, analyze what is best for the family. You'll be able to come up with a plan that, everybody can buy into, both of you can buy into. Then you start from there. It is not cast on stone either. Once you have this startup, you can keep discussing and modifying as you go along, depending on what project or whatever aspect of finance that you have to deal with. It's a continuous process that you keep refining until everyone is comfortable. What you don't do is to impose. It won't